You don't need a sprawling country estate to get your hands dirty and grow your own food. Far from it. The simple, profound joy of gardening can be found right there in your apartment, on a windowsill, a balcony, a sunny corner of your living room. This is the magic of container gardening. Transform any small space into a productive, beautiful green oasis. Connect with the rhythm of nature from a tiny seed into a delicious meal. This connection is something we all crave. With a little bit of soil, a splash of water, life finds a way to flourish, bringing the countryside to your urban doorstep. Create your own miniature world. Each pot is an island, a self-contained ecosystem you steward. Gardening on a human scale, manageable and deeply rewarding. Forget back-breaking digging. Everything is within arm's reach. Tend your plants with a morning cup of tea. An intimate way to know each plant. Learn its needs, learn its quirks. Celebrate the first true leaves, the first flower, the first tiny fruit. More than growing vegetables, nurturing life. Benefits go beyond the plate. Living plants are good for the soul. They clean the air, add vibrant color, create calm and tranquility. In a noisy city, your container garden becomes a sanctuary, a place to de-stress, watering, pruning, caring, a form of meditation. It pulls you away from screens and anchors you in the present. Find quiet satisfaction in the daily ritual. Put aside the notion you need a garden to be a gardener. All you need, a pot, some soil, a seed, a little bit of light. Open to everyone, no matter the space. This guide invites you to start the journey, from choosing your first pot to savoring your first homegrown tomato. Let's create a small space of big dreams. The adventure of growing your own food is waiting, easier and more rewarding than you imagine. Bring that green magic into your home. One of the most wonderful myths to dispel about container gardening is that you can only grow a tiny amount. This simply isn't true. With a bit of clever planning, even the smallest of spaces can produce a surprising and continuous supply of fresh, delicious food. Imagine stepping out onto your balcony to snip fresh herbs for your dinner or plucking a handful of sweet cherry tomatoes for a salad. This isn't a fantasy, it's a very achievable reality. The key is choosing the right plants and giving them the right care. You will be astonished at the sheer productivity you can coax out of a few well-tended pots. The feeling of providing for yourself, even on a small scale, is incredibly empowering and satisfying. Let's talk about the economics of it all. A weekly trip to the supermarket for fresh produce, especially organic, can quickly add up. When you grow your own food, you are in complete control of what goes into it, and more importantly, what doesn't. The commercial food system often relies on a cocktail of chemical pesticides, herbicides, fungicides to produce blemish-free, uniform crops. While these vegetables may look perfect, there are growing concerns about the residue of these chemicals on our food. By creating your own container garden, you can choose to bypass this system entirely. You can make a conscious decision to grow your vegetables organically, using natural methods to nourish your plants and protect them from pests. This gives you the ultimate peace of mind, knowing that the food you are eating is pure, clean, and wholesome. The beauty of container gardening is that many of the common soil-borne diseases and pests that plague larger gardens are simply not an issue. You are starting with fresh, sterile potting mix, which is a clean slate. You don't have to worry about the history of the soil or what might be lurking within it. This immediately reduces the need for chemical interventions. Pests are also easier to manage on a smaller scale. A few aphids on a tomato plant can be wiped off with a cloth rather than sprayed with a pesticide. You can become a proactive gardener, spotting problems early and dealing with them in a gentle, natural way. You become the guardian of your garden's health. Instead of reaching for a chemical fertilizer, you can nourish your plants with organic compost or a seaweed-based feed. These natural foods build healthy soil and strong, resilient plants that are better able to resist pests and diseases on their own. It's a holistic approach. You are not just feeding the plant, you are feeding the entire ecosystem within the pot. To set yourself up for success, it's wise to start with plants that are known to be reliable and productive in containers. You want to see results quickly to build your confidence and keep your enthusiasm high. Think of these as the all-stars of the container gardening world. At the top of the list are salad greens. particularly the cut-and-come-again varieties of lettuce, spinach, rocket. You can sow these seeds directly into a window box or round pot, and within a few weeks you can start snipping the outer leaves for your salads. The plants will keep producing new leaves from the center, giving you a continuous supply. They don't need deep pots and are quite happy in a spot that gets a few hours of sun. Next up, we have the undisputed champion of small space summer gardening, the cherry tomato. Specifically, look for determinate varieties, bush varieties. A single plant in a large pot can produce an astonishing quantity of sweet, juicy fruits throughout the summer. The taste of a sun-warmed tomato picked straight from the vine is a reward in itself. Another brilliant choice is the radish. They are incredibly fast, going from seed to harvest in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. Their peppery crunch is a wonderful addition to any salad, and their speed gives you that quick win that is so encouraging for a new gardener. Don't overlook herbs. Basil, mint, parsley, chives. A small pot of basil on a sunny windowsill can provide all you need for pasta sauces and pesto. Mint is famously vigorous, so be sure to give it its own pot unless you want it to take over everything. Having fresh herbs on hand completely transforms your cooking, adding a burst of fresh flavor that dried herbs simply cannot match. You just snip what you need, and the plant will happily grow back for more. It's the gift that keeps on giving. All right. So the first practical step on your gardening adventure is choosing the right homes for your plants. This basically means selecting your containers. You don't need to spend a fortune on fancy pots. Almost anything that can hold soil and have holes made in the bottom for drainage can become a planter. Old buckets, food-grade plastic containers, wooden crates, sturdy shopping bags. But here's the deal. The single most important feature of any container is drainage. Plants absolutely hate to have wet feet, since that can lead to root rot. So make sure there are several holes in the bottom to let that excess water escape. Now let's talk about size. The size of the pot totally matters, and it needs to be appropriate for whatever plant you want to grow. Small herbs and lettuces will be perfectly happy in a pot that's about 15 to 20 centimeters deep and wide. But if you're thinking about a fruit-bearing plant like a cherry tomato, you'll need a much larger home. For a single tomato plant, aim for a pot that is at least 30 to 40 centimeters in diameter and just as deep. Honestly, a 20-liter bucket is a good size. Giving your plants enough room for their roots to grow is crucial for their health and productivity. Plus, a bigger pot holds more moisture, meaning you won't have to water quite as often. Once you have your pots, the next vital ingredient is what you fill them with. And please do not be tempted to use soil from a park or your local woods. Garden soil is heavy. It compacts easily in pots. It can contain weed seeds, pests, and diseases. What you really need is a high-quality peat-free potting mix, container mix, or potting compost. This stuff is specially formulated to be light. It's airy, it holds moisture, it drains well. It gives your plant's roots the perfect environment to thrive. You can buy it in bags from any garden center or DIY store. Honestly, it's the single most important investment you'll make for the success of your container garden. With your pots and soil ready, it's time for the most exciting part, choosing your seeds or young plants. For beginners, starting with young plants, often called seedlings or plugs, can be a great way to get a head start. These have already been germinated and are ready to go straight into your pots. But growing from seed is incredibly rewarding and much more economical. A packet of seeds contains the promise of many plants. Just make sure to read the back of the seed packet carefully. It'll tell you when to plant. Now, with your chosen containers, your lovely potting mix, and your packets of seeds or young plants, the real fun begins. It's time to get your hands in the soil. Prepare your pots. If you are using a very large container, place a few broken terracotta pieces or small stones over the drainage holes. Fill your container with potting mix. Don't press it down too firmly. Keep it light and airy. Fill to within 3 to 5 centimeters of the rim. That space makes watering easier and prevents spills. If you are planting seeds, check the packet for instructions on sowing depth. A good rule of thumb is to plant a seed to a depth of about twice its diameter. For very fine seeds, like lettuce, scatter them lightly over the surface and cover with a very thin layer of potting mix. For very fine seeds, rocket, same approach, light scatter and thin cover. For larger seeds, like beans, use your finger or a pencil to poke a small hole to the correct depth and drop the seed in. Gently cover it back up. Don't sow too many seeds in one pot. Give them space to grow. You can always thin them out later if they are too crowded. If you are starting with young plants, the process is slightly different. Gently squeeze the sides of the small pot the plant came in to loosen it. Carefully turn it upside down, supporting the plant with your other hand, and ease it out. You should see a nice network of roots. If the roots are very tightly wound around the bottom, gently tease them apart a little. Dig a hole in your new pot that is the same size as the root ball of your seedling.